You know that moment in a store when you pick something up, look at the price, and quietly put it back? Not because you can't technically afford it, but because it feels irresponsible. So you reach for the cheaper one instead. The cheaper shoes, the cheaper headphones, the cheaper groceries, the cheaper mattress, the cheaper apartment across town with the longer commute. And each time you make that decision, there's a small sense of relief. You did the smart thing. You were disciplined. You didn't overspend. But have you ever noticed something strange? Months later, you're spending again on the same thing, replacing it, fixing it, working around it, compensating for it. And slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes filled with tiny frictions, annoyances you just accept as normal. Before we dive, hey, I'm Lucy, and I spend a probably unhealthy amount of time studying how people feel about money. Not the numbers, the tension behind them. If you want clearer thinking and a calmer relationship with money, you can subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from, and stay for the next one. Today, I want to talk about a quiet financial trap. Not overspending, not debt, but the long-term cost of always choosing the affordable option. Because sometimes the cheapest decision is the one that keeps you stuck. We grow up being taught a very simple rule about money: spend less. It sounds obvious, responsible, safe. And honestly, for a lot of people, that rule protects them, especially when money is tight, especially when you've seen what happens when bills go unpaid. So your brain builds an identity around it. You become the person who doesn't waste money, the person who chooses practicality, the person who avoids risk. But here's the misunderstanding. There's a difference between saving money and minimizing cost. They feel identical in the moment. They are not identical over time. Minimizing cost asks one question: what costs the least right now? Saving money asks a different one: what costs the least across my life? And if no one ever points out that distinction, you end up optimizing for the wrong timeline. You become excellent at surviving the present while accidentally making the future heavier. Not because you're careless, because your brain learned to prioritize certainty over efficiency. Cheap feels certain, but cheap also has a habit of repeating itself. There's a psychological comfort in affordable decisions. They remove guilt. You don't have to justify them to yourself. You don't have to explain them to anyone else. You don't lie awake wondering if you were irresponsible. Expensive purchases carry emotional weight. Cheap ones feel invisible. So your brain rewards you for choosing them. But your brain measures relief, not outcome. Let's take something ordinary. Shoes. You buy a pair for a low price. They work fine at first. After 4 months, they hurt. After 6 months, they're worn out. After 8 months, you replace them. Meanwhile, someone else buys a more expensive pair. They wear them daily for 3 years. Financially, you already know the math. But the interesting part isn't the math. It's the mental energy. Every replacement forces a decision. Every decision consumes attention. Every attention cost drains willpower. Cheap options often create recurring decisions, and recurring decisions are expensive for the brain. The same pattern shows up everywhere. The laptop that freezes slightly, so work takes longer, the chair that hurts your back, so you lose focus, the apartment far from work, so you lose an hour each day, the groceries that spoil faster, so you shop more often. None of these feel like financial losses individually. They feel like life. But they're actually something else. They're friction. And friction quietly converts time into exhaustion. Exhaustion changes behavior. Behavior changes income. Income changes options. So the cheap decision doesn't just affect the purchase, it affects your capacity. That's the hidden cost. Not money, energy. Let's go deeper. Your brain operates on limited cognitive bandwidth.
You wake up each day with a finite amount of decision energy. Once it's drained, you default to easier choices, not better ones. Now imagine your environment constantly creates small problems. The charger that only works at a certain angle, the bus route with unpredictable delays, the phone storage always full, the kitchen tools that make cooking slower, the clothes that never quite fit right. Each one steals a tiny percentage of mental clarity, and because the cost is spread across days, you never connect it back to the purchase. You just feel tired. People often interpret this as laziness or lack of discipline, but often it's maintenance fatigue. Your life requires too much upkeep, and many affordable choices increase maintenance. Cheap items break sooner. Cheap systems require workaround behavior. Cheap decisions demand repeated attention. Your brain is busy managing your environment instead of using it. So ironically, the attempt to be financially careful makes productivity harder, which makes earning, learning, and improving harder. Not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency beats intensity anytime. At some point, people notice a strange pattern. They finally buy the thing they avoided for years: a reliable laptop, comfortable shoes, a place closer to work, a proper desk, quality tools for a daily task. And nothing dramatic happens, except life becomes quieter. You stop thinking about the problem. No daily irritation, no repeated decisions, no background mental noise, just less resistance. And that's when the realization hits. You didn't buy a product, you bought the absence of friction. Money isn't only about acquisition. Sometimes it's about subtraction. Subtracting annoyances, subtracting decisions, subtracting cognitive load. When a purchase removes a recurring burden, its value compounds psychologically, not just financially. Because attention is your most valuable resource. You use it to work, to learn, to be patient, to plan, to rest. When your environment stops demanding attention, your mind becomes available again, and an available mind makes better financial decisions naturally, not through discipline, through clarity. So how do you apply this without swinging into overspending? You don't suddenly start buying the most expensive version of everything. Instead, you change the question you ask yourself. Not, can I afford this? Not even, is this worth the price? But, will this remove a recurring problem from my life? If the answer is yes, you're not evaluating a purchase, you're evaluating a system upgrade. Think about daily use items.
Things you interact with almost every day carry disproportionate influence over your mental state. A good mattress affects sleep. Sleep affects mood. Mood affects decisions. Decisions affect money. A stable commute affects stress. Stress affects energy. Energy affects performance. Performance affects income. This isn't luxury thinking, it's leverage thinking. You're identifying small points where money converts into long-term ease. The goal isn't to spend more. The goal is to spend fewer times. You stop repeatedly solving the same problem. You solve it once, and that changes your monthly behavior without requiring motivation. You cook more because cooking is easier. You focus longer because you're comfortable. You procrastinate less because tasks feel lighter. Financial progress often comes not from extreme effort, but from reduced resistance. Another subtle shift helps too. Separate emotional purchases from functional purchases. Emotional purchases are for joy, novelty, identity. Those deserve limits because they reset your satisfaction quickly. Functional purchases shape your daily experience. Those deserve thoughtfulness because they shape your behavior repeatedly. Many people do the opposite. They save aggressively on daily life tools and occasionally splurge on rare experiences, which maximizes excitement but minimizes stability.
Reversing that pattern often creates a calmer financial life. You feel less deprived because daily living improves, and you crave impulse spending less because life already feels smoother. For years, I thought financial responsibility meant shrinking every decision, making everything smaller, cheaper, safer. But eventually, I realized something. There's a kind of spending that buys comfort, and a kind that buys capacity. Comfort fades quickly, capacity stays. The affordable option often protects today's bank balance, but sometimes it taxes tomorrow's attention. And attention is what you use to build the future in the first place. So the goal isn't to stop being careful with money, it's to become careful with friction. Because a peaceful financial life rarely comes from perfectly optimized prices. It comes from fewer repeated problems. If a decision removes a daily burden, it quietly pays you back in patience, clarity, and energy. And those returns compound in ways spreadsheets can't show. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just notice the things you keep dealing with, the small annoyances you've accepted as normal. Sometimes the most responsible financial choice is the one that lets you stop thinking about it entirely. Progress isn't always about spending less. Sometimes it's about needing less effort to live your life, and that kind of progress tends to last. Thanks for watching till the end. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.